Although it doesn't look like it here in northern Wisconsin today, it is in fact spring, and with the season comes a to-do list a mile long. While looks can be deceiving, summer will be here before we know it, and in order to make the best use of our short growing season, we need to start preparing now. Frankly, I used to dread spring, or mud season as we call it here in the Midwest. The transition to warmer weather is often messy and ugly, and just when you think spring has officially arrived, a snowstorm will pop out of nowhere and start the process all over again. Then, while knee-deep in mud, we're expected to go from the rest and slowness of winter to the busyness of spring. This transition can be overwhelming and all-consuming. It can make you feel like there just aren't enough hours in the day to do everything that needs to be done. It can flat out be depressing. While I know this feeling all too well and have felt overwhelmed trying to creep in these past few weeks, I have a plan that's been working pretty well to manage it all and reclaim my peace, even as several curveballs have been thrown our way lately. If you follow me on social, you know how crazy our life has been, but if not, let's just say health scares don't care that it's a bad time to show up. Thankfully, my own health has been great, and I actually think my plan for maintaining peace is a huge contributor to that. So if you too are feeling caught up in the whirlwind of spring to-dos, here is my no-fail plan. Number 1, I get up early a few days a week and sleep in the rest if possible. Obviously, this is going to look different for each person. Maybe you work outside the home or have kids that wake you up, but the main point here is to allow yourself to go through sprints where your days are super productive and days of rest where you just do the essentials and relax your mind and body. This ebb and flow will help you steer clear of falling into an adrenaline trap where your nervous system gets stuck in overdrive. It is normal and healthy for our bodies to run from a bear here and there, but to be running from a bear all day, every day, will wreck your health. Trust me, I know from experience. Number 2, each night before I go to bed, I make myself 2 lists for the next day. One is must-dos, and the other is would-like-tos. I then pick one of those optional items, usually the one that is the most pressing, and delete the rest. Now, to clarify, the must-dos do not include daily tasks like laundry or dishes. This is only things like appointments and tasks with huge consequences if you don't get them done, like paying a bill that's due. These lists help keep me focused and help me be productive even when things are a little bit crazy. Number 3, when I start my day, I aim to do 2 things right away. Start a load of laundry and get the dishwasher going. This way, even if all else goes south and all you can do is cuddle a sick child or rock a fussy baby, at least you kept yourself from going backwards on those things that can be very time-consuming to catch up on. Okay, number 4 might seem silly, but it is to make yourself one yummy drink, like a coffee or tea. I don't drink coffee, so hazelnut tea is my go-to. And then fill up a big pitcher of ice water with some electrolytes, and in my case, I add my yummy gut health supplements to this. These 2 drinks in hand at the start of my day dramatically impact my perspective on the day. And these are not caffeinated, so this is not a caffeine thing. In fact, I honestly wonder if people say they need their coffee, not just for the stimulant, but because of the habit that says, okay, I'm awake, let's do this. Let's start the day and be productive. And then, of course, dehydration can make you feel unmotivated and sluggish as well, and most of us are starting our days at least slightly dehydrated. So don't skip this step. I bet you will be surprised how much of a difference these 2 drinks in hand will make. Number 5. I won't say too much about this because I think we've all heard it, but the last of these 5 quick tips is to get dressed. Not in sweats, but in whatever makes you feel like you're showing up to your mom job in the way you want your kids to remember you. Now, don't get me wrong, I have days that I wear sweats, but I can say that when I put on some comfy leggings and a cute dress, I don't just get more done, I feel better mentally and I don't get overwhelmed as easily. So definitely try it for yourself if you haven't already. On this day, my extra task was to get my seeds planted. And yes, I'm definitely behind in planting, especially on my onions. But as someone who's been a homemaker for 17-ish years now, I've also learned that done is better than perfect, and that even though these seeds would ideally have been planted a few weeks ago, today is better than not at all. They're still going to have plenty of time to reach maturity, and I'm going to be so grateful come summer when I'm not spending a large sum of money on starts and have all of the varieties that I prefer instead of just what is available at the local stores or the very few local nurseries that we have. I know some of you may have local nurseries that sell starts for reasonable prices, and so for you, maybe it's a season in life to just buy your starts. I have been there, even without a good source here, just needing to make use of what was available. And another life lesson that goes along with this and has been very helpful is that you may be able to do it all, but not all at the same time. Being aware of the season of life that you're in and letting go of unreasonable expectations can be a great strategy for going from feeling like you can't possibly get everything done to feeling on top of what needs to be done. Another tip I have for not getting overwhelmed by everything you want to accomplish is to not overthink the coming steps. I've talked about this before, and I get some kickback because it may sound like I'm trying to encourage lack of preparation, but here's the thing. I have had friends not get chickens after years of saying they'd like to get them simply because they got too overwhelmed thinking of all of the preparation and steps they needed to take. I may not always be as prepared as I should be when I hatch a new batch of chicks or bring home a new animal, but it happens, it gets done, and it all works out in the end. We make do with what we have at the time, and even if that means a thrown together brooder in the kitchen for a few days, I've never looked back and wished I would have put it off until I was 100% prepared because frankly, it probably just wouldn't have happened. This past week, we had a shelter fall due to a really wet snowstorm, and it landed on one of our calves. It's hard to even tell what the shelter is here, but it's under the snow. When I found her, I thought for sure she wouldn't live, but thankfully, as soon as we lifted the metal off of her, she popped right up and only needed some blue coat on a few scratches. That same day, I got my van stuck in the snow trying to take my oldest to work, and an unexpected litter of piglets were born. It was a crazy day. Here is what I find so interesting about days like this, though. I get so much done. I know it sounds backwards, but I think the saying, busy people get more done, is in line here. Basically, when you are up and in motion without spending too much time overthinking things, even if the reason is that it's too chaotic to have time to think things through, you can revert to just doing the next best thing. My fast pace and problem-solving mindset not only allowed me to come up with a plan to save the cow and to throw together a setup for the piglets, but it also allowed me to come up with quick meals and even take some actions I needed to take but had been putting off for my business. I wonder if my tendency to overcomplicate things also gets set aside. Now, don't get me wrong, I thrive on planners and meal plans, but there is something to be said for having a list of easy meals that you always have the ingredients for and can just make with no prep or recipe. And it is sometimes the need to systemize everything that slows us down and keeps us from just moving forward. Now, in case you think I have it all figured out and that I never get overwhelmed, let me assure you that is not true. But I think one of the gifts of getting older is the ability to step back from a situation a little better and see where you can improve. And this is because us older moms have been through so many ups and downs that it's easier to see the patterns and therefore pinpoint the pitfalls. One thing I plan to change over the next month to help myself avoid feeling overwhelmed even better is to continue to purge stuff and simplify our living space. I truly don't know where all of this stuff comes from because I'm not a big shopper, but I know that when I own too many things, it can leave me feeling like I don't have enough hours in my day. And when I take a step back from it all, I can see that it's in large part because I'm spending too much time managing all of our stuff, whether that is clothing or kitchen items. So I'm putting a big box in my entryway that I'm going to plan to fill each week and then donate to see if I can move more towards less clutter and more easily cleaned spaces. The last thing I want to touch on along these lines of not feeling like we have enough time is also something I struggle with, and that is confusing busyness with productivity. There are definitely days where I feel exhausted at the end of the day, but when I really audit my time spent, it wasn't on anything moving me forward. This often looks like me sitting down to nurse the baby and then getting sucked into what I call the black hole of research. So maybe I'm on social media researching trends, or I'm watching how-to videos on YouTube, or maybe I'm searching Google for product ideas. None of these things are inherently bad to be doing, but when I'm spending hours of my time researching, but never taking action on what I've learned, I'm really just wasting precious time. It is fine to have downtime, that's not what I'm saying, but the confusion comes when idle time makes us tired instead of restores us, or doesn't benefit our family in any way. So I'm going to try something, and if this is an area where you struggle, hopefully this can help you too. I'm going to start a new habit where every time I pick up my phone to productively scroll or research or watch videos, I'm going to start a new note just in my notes app on my phone that says my goal, and then I'm going to ask Siri to start a timer for however long I'm going to allow myself. So maybe I'll write find packaging for a new product and set a timer for 10 minutes. I then need to have found and bought the packaging and put my phone away by the end of that time. Another way this busyness without action can sneak in is when we get sucked into a task that really shouldn't make the top of the priority list, but we just use it as an excuse to avoid the things that should be. Frankly, that's me right now as I record this voiceover because I should really be doing taxes. Yes, I realize I only have a matter of days to file. And when we do this, that other task that we should be doing is weighing heavy on our shoulders and can make us feel very overwhelmed, even though we're not even actively working on it. For you, this could look like organizing the junk drawer instead of making dinner. I clearly don't have this one figured out yet, but I know that it can be helpful to literally say out loud, what is the most important thing I should be doing right now? And then when you do find space in your schedule, to ask yourself, what can I do right now that my future self will thank me for? Often here that looks like meal prep or laundry. If you have any additional tips for these struggles, or even just tips for managing that feeling like you don't have enough time in your day, I'd love for you to put them in the comments below. I know quite a few of you who watch my channel are older moms or grandparents even that definitely have some wisdom to share. All right, friends, time for me to stop putting off completing my taxes, but I will hopefully see you guys here next week. I know I've been a little spotty lately with all that I'm trying to juggle here, but I'm going to try my best to go put my own advice to the test and hopefully stay on top of things a little better.